Welcome to Stuff You Missed in History Class, a production of iHeartRadio. Hello and happy Friday. I'm Holly Fry.
And I'm Tracy V. Wilson.
And we talked about Wanda Gág all week.
Yeah.
You know what we did not talk about regarding Wanda Gág?
What?
A lot of her friends kind of talk trash about her.
Oh, really?
They were like, she was really selfish and kind of hard to be around. And I'm like, oh, that would explain why there aren't a lot of friends in her picture a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Although her siblings remained very close to her. Her youngest sibling, Flavia, spent a lot of time with Wanda throughout her life, often staying at her house, and her other siblings would often stay there as well.
I have questions.
Yes.
So based on her life story, it seems like from a really early age, she was trying so hard to financially hold her family together.
Yeah.
So the characterization of her as selfish, like I get it. I get how a person can be in a friend context coming off as selfish or
Right.
maybe self-centered.
Right.
But it's in some ways seems at odds with this idea of like having really tried from her teens to try to keep the family afloat. But also part of me is like, I feel like if I were in that situation and I were from my teenage years meticulously tracking my money to try to keep my family fed, I might, as an adult, be a little selfish.
Yeah, I would be self-indulgent as hell. I mean, I think part of it probably is actually that she lived for no one else but Wanda Gág. Do you know what I mean? Like, her desires were her primary priority, which I think is fine and great. Like, she didn't do a lot of like, well, would so-and-so be unhappy if I do? It'd be like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. And I think on top of that, the fact that she was pretty conceited about her artistic talent probably rubbed people the wrong way, but they couldn't just put it that way. So instead they said she was selfish. Do you know what I mean? Because that would be like admitting that like they weren't on even footing in terms of art career. There's a fun factoid that I saw on a video that is on the website for the Wanda Gág house. And it is a weird numerology thing, but it's fascinating. Okay. It is the importance or the constant recurrence of the number 7 in her father and mother's lives. The house was originally painted with 7 different colors when he built it, when he only had the one child, not 7. It has 7 different window shapes. It has 7 rooms. And then they had 7 children. And then both Anton and Lissy died when they were 49 years old, which is 7 squared. It's just weird. I don't think it means anything. I'm just saying it's interesting. I love it. But speaking of her parents, there's a thing. We mentioned that Wanda was perceived by her friends as being kind of Victorian in her social values.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing we didn't talk about in the show, and in part because I feel like it's a thing that's a little hard to pick apart, is that I think she had some early experiences with people drinking that she did not like.
Okay.
Apparently, after her father died, you know, we talk about how the kids are all doing all the work to support the family and her mom really wasn't. And she was physically ill, but it seems like also she may have had a problem with alcohol misuse at the end of her life. Because she had been prescribed by a doctor at some point to drink beer to help calm her nerves. And it seems like that escalated. And so I feel like Wanda would never speak ill of her mother.
Right.
But it seems like that impacted her perception of drinking and alcohol use, and she didn't want any part of it. And one of the reasons she wanted to move from a house they had been in the country for several years was that they had a neighbor that would come over and drink with Earl, and she didn't like him drinking either. And that was part of what precipitated her being like, we should move. which is just interesting. I don't think she ever. I read her younger year diaries and I read a lot of her other writing, but I never saw, and it could be in there somewhere, anything that specifically said like, "Hey, I saw people drinking and that was horrible and I didn't like it, so I didn't want any part of it." But she
Mhm.
never was a drinker at all. Like I think she just associated it with not good things and painfulness,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. Um, she also, there are a couple of things about her personal health that I did not include. She did at least one time in her life terminate a pregnancy, which she's
Mhm.
pretty open about in her diary. She also had a lot of issues with her period throughout her life,
Mhm.
which was another thing that she would try to describe to doctors, and they would be like, "You need rest." But they were bad enough that, like, when she would get her period, it would be extremely painful for several days, and it was bad enough that she had to structure her life around, like, I need to have those days off because I can't do anything.
Right.
Like, she was basically bedridden because it was so painful, it was hard to move. So,
Yeah.
but I will say that she called her period by a funny name, much like vacation is a funny name for open relationship.
Okay.
She called her period Hallelujah.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something she started calling it
Yeah.
because she was having some sexual dalliances.
Okay. That would make sense.
Um, I can't imagine another reason you would call
No.
it that, especially if it
Especially if you
brings
were
nothing
having
but pain.
right. Right.
Yeah.
We have made some progress as a society in terms of women's health,
Yeah.
but, like, as an example, my mom has a progressive neurological disorder that she spent so many years going to doctors and specialists and having them tell her it was just stress.
Yeah.
It's not. Her neurons are being actively damaged in her body.
Right. Yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, I not to be too oversharey about personal stuff, but right, you remember at the beginning of last year, I was having, don't anybody be scared, I'm fine. I was having chest pain,
Mhm.
which my doctor kept telling me was because I was eating spicy food, even though I was like, I don't know how to eat spicy
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
I will eat all the butter, but I can't really do spices. I can never tolerate them. I don't know what's going on. And it turned out that I had like a big old gallstone
Yeah.
lodged in the duct between my gallbladder and my stomach. And like it was like, you're just, I think it's spicy food and stress and you're
And
drinking too much
coffee?
coffee and not taking
Yeah. I
care of
remember.
yourself. And like there was a week where I wasn't allowed to eat because we were trying to like get all of the stuff out of my system. And it was like, it didn't get any better
Yeah.
until I was in the ER and they were like, "Oh, girl, that's not what's up."
Right. Right. I remember the extended misery of, like, trying to avoid coffee during all of that. And then you had your gallbladder out, and it was like everything resolved.
Everything was fine, instantly fine, felt great after that. Yeah, it's kind of funny. We're not there yet, and I'm sure some of it is just right, like
Some of it's the system and it applies to everyone, but there are
correct.
disproportionate things that affect everyone who's not a man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like too a lot of the times because menopause has not been studied all that much, right? Compared to other things. It's
Yeah.
not to say that there haven't been any, but when you say something, sometimes they'll just be like, "Oh, that's probably menopause," or "I don't know, maybe. Is this menopause?
Right.
I don't know, maybe." And so it can get really
Yeah.
frustrating. So it doesn't surprise me that she was going to doctors and going, "I think I'm starting menopause. I think it's giving me problems.
And they were like, "Probably not. You're just
Something in my
tired."
chest hurts." And she was like, they were like,
Uh,
you need to lie down."
yeah. Yeah. I've had multiple conversations with people in my friend group about perimenopause specifically and how everything we know about it we have learned from each other and not from doctors.
Yeah.
And you'll go to the doctor and have like the similar situation of like I'm having these things happen and they're like, "Yeah, maybe,
Maybe.
you know?"
Maybe.
I feel like I have a doctor that does listen to me and does like, and will order tests to try, but it still is like, we don't really for sure know why this is happening. All of the tests are normal. Maybe perimenopause. Maybe.
Yeah. And I will say this is like my moment to do a little PSA. I know that healthcare is not available to everyone, but if you can, and if you have access, and if you are able to, please get all of your baseline screenings done as often as you possibly can on your yearly or whatever schedule. Because it's when you have that in place, it's easier to see the variations that indicate something else is wrong.
Yeah.
I know it sucks, but please do it and take care of yourself because you're the only
Well,
one we have.
and I will also add to this that, like, I know it can be really hard for a number of reasons to stay on top of the things that your doctor has asked you to do. But for example, I would not know that I needed an increase in my blood pressure medicine had I not been trying to take my blood pressure at home 3 times a week like my doctor asked.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff is really, important, especially as you kinda hit our age,
Yeah,
or,
and as the world becomes progressively more chaotic and possibly the increased stress in your life is making your blood pressure significantly higher.
yeah, yeah. We mentioned in the course of the episode when Earl and her brother decided not to tell her she had advanced stage cancer, that it was not entirely unheard of, for that to be the case, even though she in her diary is like, they're giving me X-ray therapy. I'm pretty sure this is cancer.
Mhm.
Um, Not uncommon. Hard to hear that, in our age where we are a little more aware of, conscious of, often discussing the ideas of bodily autonomy. And it's easy to want to condemn that choice, but I don't think that didn't feel especially out of hand given time and place.
Right, right.
And because Earl was obviously really devoted to her at the end of her life, he did basically put aside everything he had going on to take care of her.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but it's also weird.
yeah. By the time these episodes come out, we will have had a Saturday Classic about George Wallace,
Mhm.
who's we have a similar story in that episode regarding his wife and a cancer diagnosis that she wasn't informed of. It is by coincidence that that is how this is lining up.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I also was thinking of, in the recent Vonnegut episode, we mentioned that when his sister was very ill in the hospital with cancer, they didn't wanna tell her that her husband had died.
Right, right.
Um, which, she found out by accident, and it was horrible, and I don't know, that's a hard choice to make, and I don't wanna dog anybody as stealing someone's autonomy when I know in these cases, it's not like they're hiding something from someone to try to do something devious, they're trying not to hurt them worse.
Mhm, mhm.
But I'm not equipped to make those decisions for other people, so I
Right.
don't know. But I did think it would be, a little more joyous to end this one by talking about what Wanda Gág throughout her life listed as her 3 passions,
Mhm.
and they were, obviously, unsurprisingly to anyone, art,
Yep,
sex,
yep.
and growing things.
Okay.
She loved her
I love
garden.
that. I love that. Um, yeah.
I find it funny that she thought the books that made her most famous were kind of like, I'm just doing this so I have money to make art.
Mhm.
That kinda tickles me a little bit. I love it.
Yeah.
I kinda love her. She's wild. I can't imagine being as confident as her. Whew.
No.
She just had no hesitation about how great she thought she was, which is wonderful, but not something I can identify with, so oh, Wanda, please give us strength in these times going forward. If this is your weekend coming up, I hope that you can invoke a little bit of that Wanda Gág spirit and advocate for yourself and be confident in yourself and know that you are very good at some stuff in your life and that, you should you should be able to make your own decisions and follow your own conscience as to what is best. I also hope everything goes smoothly for you and that people are nice to you and that you are nice to people in return. We got to take care of ourselves and each other. If you have medical things and you can get them screened, please get them screened. Do it for me. Tell your doctor Holly said so. We will be right back here tomorrow with a classic episode, and then on Monday with something brand new.
Stuff You Missed in History Class is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.